one.
Hello ladies and gents, welcome back to Chaos TV's live coverage of the Cybergamer Steelseries Challenge. And today it is going to be the grand finale, best of 5 format. It will be Infused, as they're now known, facing off against TCM. They were previously known as the Nexus, have just been picked up from Team Infused. I'm Edis, and I'm going to be joined by Pulse. How you doing, dude?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, Metas, and we are jumping into the finals. It's going to be a best of 5. For the first 2 games, it will be myself and Metas taking it, and it will be Splittington and Rapper taking the rest of them if we do go into the rest of those games. But we will have Twisted Fate as the first ban. Any thoughts on that, Metas?
Well, I mean, Twisted Fate is by and large just a standard ban. He's one of those characters that you expect to see at the bottom half of the screen right now, because his global presence is just disgustingly high once he hits level 6 and gets the Destiny, so nothing really out of the ordinary there. I would say the same for the rest of the champions as well. Jace, Lee Sin, Elise and Thresh. A fairly straightforward standard bans, what you see the majority of the time.
Yeah, nothing really to write home about. You just expect those to come out. If you're not looking at those sorts of targeted bans, you just go with what I like to call the blanket bans, which are just, you know, Twisted Fate, Jace, Lee Sin, Elise, the likes of those picks. Be interesting to see if TCM or Infuse come out with something that's out of the ordinary, because obviously some people will be exceptionally strong. A good example would be like Fail Factory. He's incredibly strong with Fiddlestick support, which is something you don't really see too often.
Yeah, very true. Draven is the final ban, so it's going to be into the picking phase now, Draven. Until he gets that rework, I don't necessarily want to say it's like a hard nerf, although it will probably turn out to be that, but he's going to lose his passive, and I think it's a League of Draven that the passive will be called, where you get stacks upon last hitting and catching axes, and you cash them in when you get a kill. However, that hasn't been put into play just yet. Draven is still a real terror pulse, definitely warranting the ban.
Yeah, for sure. Until that change comes out, that's definitely warranted ban coming out from Infused. So that's really going to confuse me as we get way into this game, having a Nexus who are now Infused, because they had the tags there as well. So
exactly.
We'll see how that turns out, Metas. But we're still waiting for those picks. Just as a side note, I am casting over the stream at the moment, so until we actually get into game, I will have a slight delay.
Yep, so that is going to leave the Terra counter jungler, that is Nunu, available, and JWoww has instantly locked that in for TCM. Again, a character that we've seen Maluno play a lot on Heimerdinger's Colossi before he made the switch over to Ninjas in Pyjamas, and he was super aggressive, as you'd expect with all Nunus. He effectively has 2 smites. He's got his Consume, which is his Q, and also the smite buff as well. Of course, Nunu could be played as a support, but it's been quite some time since I've seen that happen. I think maybe even back in Season 2. Either way, Zac and Kennen are going to be picked up from Fused here. That's a scary combination right off the bat, Pulse. Lots of AoE, lots of damage, lots of disruption.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a Nexus of Infused looking to bring out a strong initiate straight into that strong AoE composition. Already bringing out those 2 picks makes a lot of sense. Most likely going to see that Kennen in the top lane. As for Nunu as well, we'll see how he has an effect onto the game, because if we have Zac in the jungle, it's going to make it very difficult for Zac to farm unless he gets those ganks off, because Nunu is an exceptionally strong counter jungler, has great control over those early game buffs as well, generally likes to max the consume, just making it very difficult for the jungler to farm his own jungle, meaning he has to get those ganks out. If those ganks don't pan out, then the jungler is just super far behind, and yeah, that can cause a massive level differential.
That's very true. We have seen this a number of times with Nunu, where he will effectively just steal all the buffs and constantly have pressure. Also, because Nunu has the Consume, normally Nunus will take that at level 1 just to make sure they get the buffs even quicker, and the health that comes back, the rejuvenation that comes back with that. You will see a lot of Nunus just basically camp in the opposition jungle. They're not going to care too much about being caught. They're not going to care too much about if they, you know, get out of position, because they've got the Blood Boil. They've also got the Ice Blast as well, and they can pull themselves away. But either way, we've had some more picks coming in here thick and fast. Nami was locked in from TCM. Again, Phalox loves himself some Nami. He was one of the top supports that I first started seeing using that champion. Now it's become somewhat of a trend. And then for Infused, you've got the Sona Ezreal bot lane, going back to basics there. Season 2, this was a combination that we saw time and time again.
Yeah, for sure, and most of the time nowadays you do see the blue build Ezreal. We did in fact see Reckless the other day actually bringing out the Ezreal himself. Not a fan of the blue build Ezreal build, in fact just went for a standard AD carry build and still did amazingly well. So Ezreal definitely a very strong champion at the moment in any role he chooses to take. And also with the Sona as well, gives great bot lane control with the poke and also the hard engage when he hit level 6. We'll see what TCM pair up with that Nami. And you'd kind of expect to see like a Draven with that Nami, that would be extremely strong. Of course, Draven has been banned out. We'll see what they bring to the table. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Vayne either does well against Ezreal, but against a strong poking lane like Sona, maybe opting out of that.
Yeah, it's going to be running Caitlyn, and Caitlyn makes an awful lot of sense here. Very good with Nami, but also extremely strong alongside the Nunu, because the Blood Boil will come out. Caitlyn is a long-range AD carry that suffers somewhat in the mid-game. Having the Blood Boil will really escalate her towards that late-game status. Also means that she can focus on damage rather than building a static Shiv or a Phantom Dancer as her second or third item. So again, it makes Caitlyn a very, very strong pick here. It works very well with Nunu. We are now on to the 10th and final pick for Infused, and it looks as though it's going to be their mid laner here, Pulse, unless Kennen runs mid. I would expect to see Kennen top, as you mentioned previously, though.
Yeah, for sure, because Kennen does exert a huge amount of early game pressure, likes to get the early Doran's Blades up. In fact, we saw Ari, I can't remember who was playing it, pick up a Doran's Blades, which was actually really strong. I think he was facing up against a Kassadin. So we might see the same sort of thing here, but definitely Kennen will like to go for those early game Doran's Blades because, of course, the Doran's rings don't really work too well on him because he doesn't require that mana regen. So probably going to see that in the top lane, facing off against either Zed or Lissandra, most likely Zed, putting that Lissandra down mid, and still waiting on that 10th pick.
Well, the 10th pick has came in. It's going to be Ari, and they are now just switching this one round. So, indeed, it will more than likely be overpowered mid with the Ari's axis at top with Kennen, and of course the rest is by and large fairly straightforward as we expected. So we're going to cut to a very quick commercial break here, ladies and gents, with around 3 minutes left on the delay timer. When you rejoin us, we'll be live for game number 1 of a potential 5 of the Cybergamer finals here today on Chaos TV. So we'll see you right after the break.
And you're off.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Cybergamer Steelseries Grand Final, which would be the best of 5 TCM Gaming versus Infused. I am Pulse, I am joined by Metas, and as we get underway into the game, we are immediately hit by a pause.
Had to happen at some point today, didn't it, Paul?
Of course.
Had to happen. But fortunately for us, it only lasted a few seconds, and we are going to be back to live. So I'm skipping to live. Of course, spectator bugs are plenty on the client. We're not in tournament client, unfortunately, ladies and gents. We are on the live client, but we are into game number 1 now, Pulse. Infused on the purple side, or the red side, whatever you want to call it. They are tagged up as a Nexus because, of course, they previously, just a couple of days ago, got picked up from Infused. So it's a bit of a confusion. I'm sure myself or Pulse will slip up at some point in this game. I apologise in advance. But they're going to be up against TCM, which have had a couple of changes themselves. Of course, our very own Broken Shard up until recently was playing with them, and now he has been replaced, because I don't think he could turn up to lands. I think that was the reason.
Yeah, and the new Terrador will be taking his position, and he's a very competent jungler, so I'm sure TCM will be absolutely fine. As we get underway into this game, Orb of Deception comes down, does a bit of poke damage to JWoww, nice return of damage from Matroco, and a Limp's Reversal down just into the bottom jungle as well, looking to ward off Nunu. But TCM are getting aggressive into this red buff from the purple team. Ward goes down as well for that extra bit of vision and early game knowledge. Are they actually going to go for this red buff here, Matters?
I am not too sure. There's a lot of ward placement coming down though, actually. Pink from Limits of Reversal. We'll be clearing that one out. I have just been messaged from Broken Shard instructing me that it is just a momentary sub. So it's the substitute. Naru is the substitute, and Broken Shard is still in the lineup. So just to clear some confusion there that I was having. Either way, there were a couple of wards placed down, as we said, but by and large it is going to go back to that standard opening, with both junglers just being happy to stay in their respective jungle. So not a great deal happening at the end. That being said, actually, Paul, Naru is now going for blue buff.
Yeah, so we never quite know what exactly is going to happen, but JWoww is finding himself caught by Limp's Reversal and Ivan, but we do have Silver just coming down as well. We'll be warding him off, and that will be the bot lane transitioning into that top lane for this early game laning phase. And of course we will have Caitlyn and Phelox down the bot lane facing off against Xaxus.
Yeah, so this is pretty interesting. The lane switch-ups coming about. With these two lane swaps, Pulse, I mean, who are you favouring? Is JWoww or is Xaxus going to have the upper hand? Because, you know, JWoww, he's on Zed. Zed is a melee champion, but with his shurikens that he can throw out, he can get farmed from a fair range away. But do you think this favours Kennen purely on the basis that he can constantly spam shurikens and basically ranged attacks?
Yeah, it would seem like that from the start metas. I mean, he would have the ability to farm under turret, probably better than Zed does. However, we always have to look at the junglers to see how this turns out, because so many times we were like, well, we can fearcraft as much as we like, junglers come in, completely upset the balance, and then it turns in the opposite direction. Straight up looking at it though, Caitlyn has a great deal more harassment than Ezreal early on in terms of like turret pushing, so maybe slightly better in that respect, but Ezreal will be able to charge up that passive, so probably fairly equal until we get some sort of jungler intervention. In fact, we do have Naruto coming down into that bot lane, Zac coming in from the side as well. Looking for this dive at that level 2 onto Xaxus, we'll be backing up. Elastic Sync Shot goes down straight into that turret. Phelox gets locked up just for a second, but they will be pushing them back.
Yeah, so Zac in the right place at the right time. I have to say though, with these lane switch-ups, now Nunu is typically a jungler alongside characters like Nasus that can pick up fairly early drakes with that consume. So with having an AD in support of bot lane up against the top laner, which is Xaxus, they could potentially go on for a sneaky drake at some point here, Pulse. Definitely one on the cards if Zac doesn't hang around. Lightning charge comes out, we'll be catching on Naru, but not doing enough damage to push them back. However, does clear the wave, and their tower will survive a bit longer. Towers, interesting enough, about equal.
Yeah, despite all the harassment going down and the help from Zac as well, it's basically a tri-lane versus a duo lane down the bot lane. There's very, very similar HPs on both of these turrets, and it looks like JWoww is really holding up quite well against his duo lane. We'll see which lane goes down first, or rather Nunu goes down first. Towers are doing some damage as well. Cesar just comes in with some more damage with the stretching strike, but we'll just be pushing them back, and the Terrador dropping very, very low.
Yeah, 30 hit points remaining. It's like scurrying around looking for a minion to consume, or begging Nami to ebb and flow him with the heal. But yeah, got out just in time. Ignite has been burnt therefore from Xaxus. But job done, you have to say here from Zac. They've kept the tower alive. Not just that though, they've pushed the lane back towards the middle. So it's going to be another little while before they're smashing down the bot tower again.
Yeah, and meanwhile, top lane, we have JWoww, well, basically just trying to defend his turret best he can, dropping very, very low. It may even be this wave when it drops, and that might give them opportunity to open up on JWoww himself, or just transition into that bot lane. More harassment goes down at bot lane as well, and Croco actually returning damage, the Ignite coming down, and the Piltover Peacemaker comes out as well, but won't be taking him down. And Ivan is just doing a great job of just keeping Kennen in that lane. And now that they have that tower advantage, they might be able to swap up that top lane into that bot lane.
Yeah, you could see what Naru was trying to do, coming down as Nunu, giving the Blood Boil to Caitlyn and trying to nuke that tower down. But, you know, Ivan just called it. He was like, they're probably going to come to bot lane, I'll stand here. And they got to say that Nunu coming bot in that 3v2 backfired, because that left Zed at top, that left JWoww very vulnerable in the 1 versus 2. And their tower is still alive with over 700 hit points remaining. So looking really, really good right now from Infused from the very get-go. Zach actually forced the flash from Phelox before, as you were talking, Pulse, and then Phelox burned the Ignite. So both summoners down for Nami for quite a while.
Yeah, it was a huge commitment, and it just didn't work out for that bot lane, even though you would have thought they would have done, because you had the Caitlyn, you had the Nunu, extremely strong combination early on, along with the Nami. That's a 3 versus 2 lane. You'd expect that to be able to push in, but the wave clear was just a little bit too strong. But that will mean they are swapping that top lane into that bot lane, turning that into a 2 versus 2 lane, moving that cannon up top as well. It means Zed's going to have a very difficult time pushing against that anyway. So they will have that 1 tower advantage so far. That will give them a lot of leeway in terms of what they can do in terms of controlling the pace of this game. And they are starting to ward Drake as well, so that might even be the next objective, as a limited reversal started at 6 minutes 30.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, the team with the Nunu, the TCM, would be going for the early Drake, but with this tower presence and with being able to switch up their AD carry and support back to bot, now 4 players smashing down Drake, already at about a quarter of its health remaining. This is going to be going down for free. Nobody is even close. Nunu was actually picking his wolves up, so that's going to be 2 objectives on the board for Infused, with 0 coming in from TCM. So they've took a really nice, steady, calm approach here, and they are edging ahead on CS. Caliber being very, very ballsy, knowing he had the Arcane Shift to get away from Nami. So Ezreal, and this is something I didn't mention in Champion Select while I was thinking it, Ezreal's a very good pick against Nami. Every time she flies down with the Aqua Prison, very easy for Ezreal to just escape out of that, no problems.
Yeah, for sure. And right now, we have that advantage just opening up right now for Infused and taking very early advantages. That will mean the Drake's down for quite a while, meaning there's no real point of contention for TCM to maybe get in those skirmishes, those scrappy team fights, which they are looking quite strong to actually start. The roaming capability as well, not really looking for that to happen, and Overpower just walks straight into the turret. I'm going to go with he may have disconnected.
Yeah, I mean, that was weird. So he has actually just DC'd. It kind of got me a bit speechless. So I'm hoping that that Naru will just let Overpower walk away. He should survive. There is a tower shot coming in, but that's not going to claim the rest of his life. So if there's any sportsmanship here, Pulse, they will just let Overpower recall and act like nothing happened. Well, I'm not sure. If it is the grand finals, there is money up for grabs here. So it's kind of a moral choice. Do you go for the kill and the first blood as well? So that's going to be a nice chunk of change. Or do you just let them walk away?
It would be perfect for Nunu as well. Having that early first blood will give him a great start into the game, give him more counter-jungle potential. That it may even snowball out of control. It'd be very nice metas if he could pick that up, but, you know, just sportsmanship and all that. We'll see how this turns out in the next couple of seconds. Overpower has reconnected, and he's asking whether we can get underway into the game once again. 4 seconds, and all will be revealed as we watch Nuru's decision. He's just going to back off.
Good guy. I love to see that bit of sportsmanship. Naru easily could have picked up the kill. Overpower recalls, and it's good to see, Pauls. It's heartwarming.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump to live once again. Fine, would you like to... There we go. Fantastic. So, however, Naru will take this opportunity to move it into the back jungle, knowing that Ari's not around, and therefore Zac will need to move into that mid lane, moving around into that bot lane as well. Maybe looking for this tower dive to happen. The tower is fairly low. Probably won't be able to take it down in the engagement if they choose to go for the turret dive. And Limited Reversal is level 5, however, so they won't have the crescendo if they choose to go for this engagement. Meanwhile, mid lane, Overpower does pop the Spirit Rush, moving on to Belgian Beast. Ignite comes down as well. Orbital Deception lands on the first pass, but doesn't actually complete its passage. And we do have Naru just backing off, didn't want to choose for that tower dive.
Even though Overpower was not killed, as a result of the DC, still had to go back to spawn, so that's a fair chunk of the tower has gone. Also, I'm not sure if you caught that, but Lissandra using the Frozen Tombs and Ignite on Zac popped his passive as he was trying desperately to keep mid-tower alive. So even though the DC didn't result in a death, it has resulted at the cost of some of that health in mid and the passive of Zac. So he's not going to be able to be as aggressive, as in your face, up in your grill as he'd like to be for the next 2 or so minutes.
Yeah, he really can't go for those ballsy tower dives, knowing that he can pop into his passive and have a little bit of extra time to just keep himself together. But once again, bot lanes are just kind of duking it out, expecting that tower to go down fairly shortly, but that Infused bot lane is looking quite strong. It probably will drop in the next pass if Celiva doesn't manage to just keep these minions down. Matroco will take some hits in return, but he should be good to go. Ebb Flow goes down, and we do have Cesar just over the wall looking for this gang to happen.
Yeah, so even with the passive down, realizing that the completely forgot the name of it there for a few seconds, Crescendo. That's an ultimate that I've said time and time again for, so I just had like a complete brain shutdown. But realizing that Crescendo is up from Sona could very well still make a play regardless. If Crescendo is used and hits both players, then Zac can just bound on in there with Let's Bounce, but doesn't look likely just yet. The tower is very low though, so it looks like they're trying to bait out Matroco and Phalox here, but they're not falling for it, they're just keeping the wave pretty much frozen.
Yeah, we have Narutador, meanwhile, a top lane just counter-jungling away, as Nunu likes to do, and also moves around Kennen as well. Zax is in fact just backing off to his brush, not sure if he just caught sight of him and decided this wasn't a situation he wanted to be in. This will result in JWild putting down some hits onto this top turret, which is exactly what he wants. They need to reclaim the turret, reclaim some of that global gold, and Narutador comes in as well to offer that Blood Boil assistance, but Mini Wave will actually dry out, and Zac now coming in as well.
Yeah, Zac seems to be all over the map right now, but hasn't been involved in, of course, any kills because we're still at the 0-0 scoreline. But it's not for a lack of trying, Pulse. There's been a lot of attempted ganks thus far from both junglers, lots of action. I'm still somewhat at a bit of a loss for words that we've had no kills at 11 minutes, but maybe that's going to change now. Crescendo and Trueshot Barrage both landing on TCM's bot lane, but pretty much just pushing them back and deciding not to bother giving chase. So again, ultimates being burnt, nobody dying.
Yeah, we've had several close calls, but no one quite dropping. That will mean those big ultimates have been popped down at bot lane, maybe giving a bit of an opportunity for TCM to move onto them. We will be actually taking these golems, maybe even just giving that to Matroco, just allowing them some of that lifesteal, picking up that vamp set. And they might go for this guy, because Matroco does have that ace in the hole, doesn't quite have the mana for it yet, but Phalox does have that tidal wave. Zac is moving around the area, but in fact he's just going to back off and move on to that blue buff, so Narutador wants that going to happen, he might be able to do it now. In fact, the bot lane from Infused just backs on off, so no action quite going to happen just yet.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry about that. I accidentally muted my microphone, but I am back again now. Interestingly enough, though, looking at some of the discrepancies between CS, look at Zed compared to Kennen. 90 to 47. Now, one of the reasons for that is that JWow's tower was taken down relatively early, and the creeps were constantly pushing his second tower, so he's been free to farm there. But still, that's a big, big difference, especially when you consider that no kills have been exchanged thus far, Pulse.
And I've also muted myself as well. Outstanding. But you also have to think about the fact that Infused have picked up the Drake and a tower, and they're basically only 300 gold ahead. And it's just the farm differential has actually increased the gold. Drake will be spawning very, very shortly. See if TCM can maybe contest this. But so far they're doing really well on the gold totals, even just with the CS. So when that tower eventually goes down, because JWoww is laying siege to it, they'll probably put themselves into a steady advantage. But Drake spawning very shortly, just harassment coming in from Overpower. We'll see how this one pans out.
Yeah, but I've got to say, there is going to be a fairly big influx of gold very shortly, because this bot tower is on 41 hit points, and the top tower is looking fairly weak as well, just shy of 800. So if they go ahead and push, they're suddenly going to have 2k gold globally in their back pocket. Again, Drake is a point of potential contention. Here comes the Crescendo from the side, and Cesar as well has used Let's Bounce. Here comes Ace in the hole as well. They are chasing on Naru. Nice Aqua Prison though, locking down Zac. In the meantime, here comes Naru from the side. That's going to be the first blood to the mid lane. Overpower missing the charm, but still chasing after TCM. But job has been done with the jungler down as well. This could very well transition into a Drake attempt. Zac's passive has been pop down there. Aqua Prison landing again, but they simply don't have the health or damage to follow this up, Pulse, and this should be by and large a free Drake.
Yeah, both of those junglers popping down, but in fact we did have Cesar dropping into his passive, keeping himself alive. First blood, in fact, went down to Aria, which is probably one of the best people to have it on. They will be now starting this Drake, trying their best maybe to just land a stray skill shot, picking up this Drake. Belgian Beast over the wall has been revealed, however, by a ward. Might even get caught out by Overpower's charm, but Piltover comes in as well. Not just going to work out, but Kellever just coming over the wall, just doing some damage as well. But that will be another Drake picked up from Infused, as well as the First Blood.
Yeah, it goes to show how evenly skilled the matchup is between these two teams. That First Blood coming down around 13 to 14 minutes. It took that long for the cookie to crumble, and that is going to be top tower going as well. So suddenly, in the blink of an eye, the goal difference is 100. Again, this is such a close, tense opening game in this finals.
Yeah, and it's incredibly close. In fact, no gold in it at all. Despite the First Blood, 2 dragons as well. But the tower has been picked up, and another tower at top as well. So we'll see how this turns out into later on into the game. Nothing really opening up onto single people, but we do have the engagement coming in with the death mark coming onto Kennen. Pops the slicing maelstrom as well, jumps in with living shadow. Doesn't actually follow up, actually gets stunned just on the last charge. And now Zaxxas fearing for his life, but we do have Cesar along with limits of reversal going around that top lane. And just heard Ezreal's voiceover just appearing in my ear as well, despite on the opposite sides of the map. Thank you very much.
Pulse fire systems engaged, like halfway through you talking. That's all I hear in my ear as well. But yeah, Kennen did use his ultimate as a safety mechanism to stop JWoww chasing after him. But JWoww's death mark has a 96-second cooldown, whereas Slicing Maelstrom on 120. So slightly working out in favor of JWoww there, because Slicing Maelstrom is such a big team fighting tool, Pulse. To have that down for the next couple minutes is just going to spell out a very, very confident TCM.
Yeah, players of this caliber will always be sort of timing the summon the spells and timing those big ultimates as well. So there's no doubt that JWoww, when he moves into that top lane once again, or maybe looks for the on Kennen, he'll know that he'll have his ultimate while Kennen doesn't, and that'll actually give him the edge in that trade. But in fact, we'll be moving down into this mid lane, and all four and Nunu coming in as well. We'll be pushing out on this mid. Picks up the turret, 3-1 turret so far. Just outmaneuvering Infused at the moment. And we'll see if Infused can actually get off some of those killer engagements as they did at that Drake.
Yeah, it's very true. It's like a systematic push. You take one tower, let's focus another tower. Take another, let's focus the mid. And they've just managed to pick up all of the outer towers now across the map. So it's a nice amount of map control and vision control in their back pocket. Zaxxas with a ward down in Tribush, spotting himself as Zed. And in the meanwhile, Zac actually thinking about coming around the side, going to be picking up the double golems instead. So you've kind of reached that point in the game, Pulse, where there's no Drake available, towers are looking fairly scarce and not that easy to push. So I think both teams are going to be relatively comfortable with just farming and up for a little while. JWoww needs to be careful though, because if he gets too aggressive, then Cesar will come around from the side and try and make a big play happen.
Yeah, because the game is so close, they're not really wanting to go for these engagements to swing it either way. Blue buff has spawned, Overpower does see Belgian Beast in that mid lane, comes over the wall, just lands some damage onto it. Gotta be careful though, because he is expending his cooldowns. And we Zac over the wall with the elastic slingshot, not quite throwing himself over just yet. Comes into that blue buff, smite goes down, who picks it up? Naru picks it up with that smite. And walks on out of there.
He is such an annoying player to play against, this Nunu. I absolutely detest playing against him in solo queue. Because if you're a jungler, you just know that all of your buffs belong to him. Like, there is just nothing you can really do. Effectively 2 smites. So, that in a nutshell is what Nunu brings to the table. But especially with Caitlyn, something I mentioned before, has very good synergy between the two of them, Caitlyn and Nunu. Either way, they are congregating around the red buff here. So they're playing super aggressive here, TCM. They're just trying to choke out Infused in their own jungle, and so far it's working out really well for them. They're not allowing Infused to push any of their towers. All of Infused on their side of the map.
Yeah, and because they have a very strong mid-game as well, Nunu's doing pretty well. Of course, as you mentioned, the Blood Bowl jumping onto Caitlyn will put them in a good position in terms of trading potential. I'm not even sure what will happen when it gets into these teamfights methods, because you have the double AP composition from Infused's lineup. You have the Kennen, you have the AoE ultimates from him alongside Ahri as well, and the engagement from Cesar. Do you think maybe they just need to group up and try and fish for a teamfight?
It's very possible, but I think one of the big things in Infused's mind right now is they want to get the Zhonya's Hourglass on Kennen. He is now recalling with 1 point. In fact, he's cancelled the recall, but he does have enough gold to finish the Zhonya's Hourglass off. He's got both the Seeker's Arm Guard and an Needlessly Large Rod. From there, it's 500 gold, and he's sitting at 1.1k right now. So maybe that's one of the power spikes they're looking for here, Pulse, where Kennen can just go hell for leather in the middle of the enemy team, pop down the Slicing Maelstrom and the Zhonya's Hourglass. Very difficult to fight on top of the Kennen like that.
Yeah, a definite possibility. Maybe they're just looking for an opportunity to go onto an objective. Pings go down around the Baron area. Be fairly surprised if they actually go for that. I think they may have just been pinging some wards, but maybe at Drake they'll try and make a team fight out of it, because Infused do have that strong team fighting potential, but TCM right now have so much mobility just moving all over the map, making it very difficult for Infused to get anything done, while all the turrets and personal objectives are being just sieged down.
Yeah, so Zhonya's Hourglass and also the Sork shoes have been finished for Kennen, and that spells a bit of danger right now for TCM, because he can look to be very aggressive. Before Zhonya's Hourglass, Kennen's fairly squishy, he's a primary target. When he has the Zhonya's Hourglass though, you don't really want to be focusing him down, because you know suddenly he's just going to become invulnerable and the rest of his team is going to play clean-up crew. However, with Drake respawning soon, you can see both teams down in this bottom half of the map are hungry to pick up this objective. So Pulse, I think we're going to have a bit of a fight on our hands very shortly.
Yeah, Infused want this team fight to happen if they can make it happen. In fact, Naruto already starting that Drake will be dropping very quickly with that Nunu one. And the ultimate comes in from Kennen as well. There's one with Belgian Beast. Crescendo comes in, and just all the AoE ultimates come out. Naruto pops down the ultimate himself, the absolute 2 for 0 trade so far. But that strong team fight of Infused now moving themselves onto Drake, 2-0 trade. Drake as well, unless Naruto can pull off some crazy steal.
So interestingly enough, that was actually Lissandra that initiated the fight, and it completely backfired. So again, without sounding like a broken record, I think Infused were just waiting for Kennen to get that power spike with Zhonya's Hourglass. It paid out so well for them in that team fight. Now Ari's at 2-0, Kennen's 1-0, that's a Drake, and they're starting to move forward in gold, even though they're 2 towers behind. So just goes to show that this game is still very close, very much up in the air, and anyone's. But still, you got to say Infused have the slight advantage.
Yeah, Infused now with the ability that they can team fight and they know they can win. I know what you were saying before, Metas, is when they hit that Zhonya's Hourglass on Kennen, all they needed was then an objective to fight over. They got the objective as Dragon, and then they went for that team fight. In fact, Belgian Beast did engage it. I don't think they were actually expecting that at the time, but it still worked out for them. What they now have is that ability to team fight. See if they go for any objectives like some of those outer turrets. That bot tower is looking very tasty for them right now. However, from TCM, they still have great mobility. They might be able to outmaneuver them before they go for that team fight down at bot lane.
Yeah, it was a bit of a head scratcher for me, because Belgian Beast went right down the middle, locked down 2 or 3 players with his Frozen Tomb and of course the rest of his AoE kit. But the problem was that after he did the initial burst, there was no follow-up from the rest of his team. As Nunu's getting completely crushed from Ari, who actually has the Deathfire Grasp. So that is a lot of single-target nuke capability from Overpower. As we just saw, Nunu is the tankiest player right now on TCM's lineup, and he just got basically one combo from Ari.
Yeah, and we were just talking about how strong Kennen is with that power spike. Now we're looking at Ari. All eyes are on Ari. 3-0-1, picked up 3/4 of his current team's kills on his entire team's kill total. He's looking incredibly strong in his own right. Having both of those AP carries in a good position in this mid game is exactly what Infused want.
Yeah, my only concern right now for Nunu is he's lacking a bit of health. That being said, though, here comes Kelliver on Matrocco. Matrocco has very, very little mana. Does have the red buff alongside Kelliver, though, so this is really a duel to the death. Matrocco simply has to run. He can't stand toe-to-toe, and with the scumbag creeps blocking out the Mystic Shot, Kelliver is going to give up chase. So somehow Matrocco will be escaping. That was by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that minion duped in front of that Mystic Shot there, Metas, but that will save his life in a good position. Zac was also heading down as well, so you have to feel if he did land that Mystic Shot, then Zac would just seal the deal. But now moving into that top lane as well, Kennen around that area, see if they can get something done on Jwal. He's a very slippery individual with that Death Mark and the Living Shadow to get himself out of dodge. But in fact, he will be backing off, just sniffing something might be wrong with all of those wards down in around the Drake area.
Yeah,
the Baron area.
Yeah, I was going to say this before, you know, Ezreal and Caitlyn got into a complete slapping contest there at bot lane. But you look at Nunu's items, and I said he was the tankiest member on his team, which is still true, but still, Pulse, there's not a lot of health there. Just the one Ruby Crystal, so... The Consume obviously is a really nice spell to get some health back, but you saw in that previous engage between him and Ari that she just completely crushed him in the blink of an eye. Maybe he needs to build a bit more tanky. He's gone for Spirit of the Spectral Wraith instead of the Elder Golem, which effectively doesn't give him much health, does give him a lot of ability power, but didn't really pay out for him there before.
Yeah, I think he's feeling the pinch though, has picked up the Negatron Cloak along with Caitlyn as well. Zaxxas is in fact disconnected now, and he do go for disengage onto Naruto, and the pause goes in.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to make any difference to Naru here. He is going to die. There are 3 fairly angry players smashing his face in. So, yeah, Nunu is going to die very quickly. They are saying it's a DC, of course, as we saw. He did quit the game. And it stands at 4-0, soon to be 5-0. So, let's just have a quick look over the game itself here, Pulse. Is there anything that's jumping out to you in terms of either CS or item build?
So far, everything looks fairly standard. We're looking towards Ezreal, in fact, who's picked up the Phage, the Sheen, and the Bloodthirster as well, which is interesting, because we generally see the blue build Ezreal. We generally see the sort of normal AD carry build, but we haven't seen the Triforce sort of big damage item like the Bloodthirster or the Infinity Edge build for quite a while. I'm not actually sure how that comes into play into this new meta, because I just haven't seen it at all in competitive play.
Well, you know, most, and I use this term loosely, but most of the Ezreals that we've seen recently, other than Reckless, have been blue build Ezreal. Reckless likes to run Infinity Edge and Blade of the Ruined King, so this is a slightly different modified version coming out from Kellever. Obviously feeling that with the farm and the global objectives that they've got, that he's going to be able to afford that Triforce fairly soon. So it's quite interesting. I'm assuming it's a Triforce. Of course, the Phage could theoretically go into a Frozen Mallet, and the Sheen could go into the Iceborne Gauntlets. I wouldn't expect to see that happen, but it's another option to maybe consider there, Pulse. Either way, it's been a long time since we've seen Triforce in any of the games we've casted.
Yeah, I'm also looking at Nunu as well, because we were talking a little bit about the Spirit of the Spectral Wraith before and the Spell Vamp. Looks like he's heading towards a Spirit Visage as well. That's what I was looking for with that current item build. That means he'll be able to solo the Baron. However, you generally expect to see that early on into the game. He hasn't had the most fantastic of games. He's stolen a couple of buffs, got decent CS, but in terms of actually being able to solo Baron, he's not quite at that same level. However, when he gets that full build up, he will be able to solo it. So that might be something they're looking for later on into this game. Have the rest of the team down at bot lane, Nunu's just somewhere else in the jungle picking up that Baron.
That is very true, and also that would make sense against the double AP comp as well, because obviously it's going to give him magic resist, it's going to give him a higher regen on his consume as well, and you have to factor in that Cesar Zac is also going to be doing magic damage, because that's what Zac really deals in. So you've got effectively 3 magic damaging champions and an Ezreal who has a Sheen who's also going to be dealing magic damage. So I would have to query, maybe a Runic Bulwark would be a really, really nice pickup here against Infused lineup, but doesn't seem anyone's interested in going for it.
Yeah, I mean, Germany supports at this level just like to go with those utility items, even just maybe 1 or 2 of them, and just cramming in those wards. And no surprise, Nunu gets dropped in a blink of an eye. I don't think anyone was really expecting otherwise. But yeah, Germany supports at this level do like to just spam out those wards, go with the utility, and have very little items themselves. So, not looking at that bulwark from the supports right here, but Kellever and Matroka just training blows down at bot lane. So, if we are going to see that bulwark from anyone, it'll probably be from Nunu.
Yeah. For sure, it's what you'd expect. I mean, most supports won't really go bulwark because it's a high amount of gold to commit, which is gold you could be spending for, you know, cheaper utility items or just plenty of ward coverage on the map. But as I was expecting, with having Nunu on the team, Matroko is not going for early attack speed items, has finished off the Bloodthirster and Last Whisper, and in fact Negatron Cloak coming out as well. So maybe Quicksilver Sash coming out in the near future, which would make a lot of sense here, Pulse. You've got a lot of magic damage on the opposite team, charms, stuns, and everything else being thrown at your face.
Yeah, it would be a perfect pickup right here. Just hoping he doesn't go for the Mercurial Scimitar, because what a lot of people don't quite realize about Mercurial is that it's extremely inefficient when it comes to gold. The only reason it's good is because of the slot efficiency when you get to like late game. But in terms of what you actually gain from completing the item, it's actually very inefficient.
Yeah, that's very, very true. So, what a lot of AD carries will do, as he said, in fact, hold that thought, because JWoww has been caught at the top. Nice death mark, mitigating some of the damage. He's juking around the side, but he's finally been stunned off here. Not enough damage to pick up either kill, and he will be going down without retaliating with a kill of his own. So, that is a quick 6-0 coming out the gates here. As you said before that action kicked off, though, Pulse, it's very true. A lot of AD carries will just get the standard Quicksilver Sash, and they'll build their full item build around it, and then if they've got enough gold at the end, then they'll update it to the Scimitar. But I'd expect maybe after the Quicksilver Sash to then see the Zeal into Phantom Dancer.
Yeah, this is also more traditional AD carry build, but now into a 6-0 goal total, or rather kill total. We have Infused in a very good position. We'll see if they go for these team fights, but right now, just picking off people all over the map. We saw the pick on Nunu mid, we saw the pick on JWoww at top on that Zac. It's just looking really good for them. They're not being outmaneuvered from that TCM lineup. They're winning the team fights as well. Now we're looking at TCM to see what they can do in return.
But I have to say, playing devil's advocate, that even though the scoreline looks very one-sided, you look at the gold difference, and really, 1.3k gold after 26, nearly 27 minutes in the game is very, very little difference.
Yeah.
So, even though it looks one-sided, TCM are definitely still in this game. That being said, though, Drake is being picked up right now, and it's going to be, by and large, completely free. Because there we go, it has already fallen to purple team. So, I'm saying it's close, but if they keep giving away free objectives like that's not going to be too close for much longer. JWoww's been caught actually from Overpower, who uses Sonny's Hourglass to get out of the death mark. Now jumping on JWoww, he's forced to get away. Zac in from the side, and Tidal Wave gets burst as well. So nobody falls down there. But that was looking pretty close for JWoww.
Yeah, it seems like a recurring theme in this game, Metas. All the ultimates come down, but no kills come out. Matraco trading off with Caliber, and the ultimate comes down, ace in the whole land, and Usador just punches them once, gets the assist. Absolutely perfect. But meanwhile, mid lane, we have the Siege coming in from Infused. 3-man strong from the TCM lineup, not able to do anything quite yet. The Claw comes in, but doesn't have the Frozen 2. Did use it in the teamfight. Charm, in fact, lands. Might have engaged in that had they known it was landing, but Narutador from the side actually stops that aggression.
As we expected, Ezreal's gone for Trinity Force. So, seeing his Sheen and Phage before, yeah, he's obviously feeling like he can dart around the edges and put out a lot of damage. This is something we saw time and time again in Season 2. It was a core item for Ezreal, and Corki as well, actually. But I haven't seen it in quite some time. Even though Ezreal did get picked off at bot lane there from Caitlyn, he'll take that. They got the secondary mid tower. So a death for a tower, definitely worth it in that case.
Yeah, and especially pushing so far into them as well. That means their bottom tower is very, very nice. Probably going to pick that up. Only about 300 hit points on that as well. Very easy for that Infused lineup to pick up. And also those outer turrets then become a bit easier because of that map control. 4-man strong from Infused moving into that top lane. Zaxxas from the side as well, starting to open up from JWoww. JWoww moving towards his turret, and the ultimate comes in as well, over the wall with that Spirit Rush. Immediately gets dropped straight into the zone from Zaxxas, stopping himself taking any damage from that death mark. And once again, that's another pick, putting him in a good position, maybe to put down some contention onto another objective.
Yeah, and you gotta say, the Zhonya's Hourglasses that both Ari and Kennen have picked up have not only been crucial in the teamfight stage when you're in the enemy faces, but also they work as a heavy counter to JWoww's Zed, for the same reason that Kayle is a hard counter to Zed, because he really is very much biased and stacked towards his death mark, popping off targets. You pop into Zhonya's Hourglass, completely negates that whole process. Suddenly Zac isn't anywhere near as scary as before. So again, you got to tip your hat here to how Infused have been building this one. Really just playing Zed out of this game. He got a lot of farm at top lane, but he's been unable to utilize it thus far in this match.
Yeah, at the moment we do have Infused just fishing around that Baron area, just putting a bit of doubt in TCM's mind whether they actually have started it, just forcing them to just stay around the area. Phalanx just there as well, trying to clear out some wards. Gotta be careful, doesn't get caught by Zac. The Elastic Slingshot just, in fact, charges up, doesn't actually go for it. Phalanx did, in fact, back off. And, well, we just have TCM just backing off into their own side of the map. We're just waiting for the next sort of bout of action to start off here, Metas.
And we called this before as well, Pulse, where like someone surely has to go for an Aegis of the Legion or a Runic Bulwark. Now it seems that Nunu is opting for that himself. He has the components Emblem of Valor, Ruby Crystal, and of course a Null Magic Mantle. So that is a good pickup. It's going to take a little while longer. He's only got about 600 gold. From this point it's going to cost him nearly 1,000. So definitely going to be looking to pick that one up as soon as possible. And he is starting to become that tanky Yeti that we all know and hate to play against. Whereas before he was quite squishy.
Yeah, he's looking to be very difficult to deal with in those team fights. Tower went down to minions, and we do have Infused just around that Baron area once again. They're just hoping that someone goes into that bot lane, because there's a large minion wave actually heading down into that bot turret. In fact, we do have the recall coming in from Senna, so they are just going to back off. I thought what they were going to do was wait for maybe Caitlyn to go down bottom lane, start that Drake up, and then maybe just sneak that one out. But Nuruterador just around that area, looking just to make sure they haven't started it. And of course, if they are looking for buff securing, then Nunu is the one to do it. But the ultimates come down, and in a heartbeat, J-Wild just gets popped. Cesar coming in as well, and actually just escapes with the Let's Bounce. Tidal Wave comes down, everyone will just get out of it, but overpower over the wall as well, just putting down some harassment. But J-Wild already dead.
Oh man, I don't know if you caught that, but Caliver just made the great escape. He survived on 25 hit points. He had to use barrier, he had to use everything, and also get the Aria of Perseverance from Sona just to survive the death mark that came in from JWoww. But JWoww goes down without picking up the kill on Caliver. So again, another small victory there going into the hands of Infused, but that was so close on Caliver.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch the start of that. I was just looking at top and watching someone farm, which is it's just like, oh, that's pretty good farming from Zaxxas. Meanwhile, mid lane, J-Wild just getting bursted. But we will have both of these teams once again moving around that Baron area. All the wards going down from both teams. We will have the supports just looking to pick some of these up with the support of maybe the jungler or a bit of a security escort. We just got to make sure that they can get caught out by one of those carries. And we are just waiting for more action to shoot off, because every time we have a teamfight matters, it's just one person dying, or in fact everyone just backing off by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, Zed's really trying to make plays, and it's understandable why as well, because Caliver was out of position. He was kind of in the mid, minding his own business, and of course that just means that JWoww, the assassin that Zed is, and the assassin he brings to the table, is going to be flying in with the living shadows and the shadow swap and everything else and trying to nuke him down. That being said though, while JWoww is a bot lane without a teleport, they've seen it, and they're going to go ahead and try and pick up a Baron with 3 of them. Honestly, I'm not too sure what TCM are looking to do here. Are they trying to just base race this up? Are they trying to steal off a couple of towers at the cost of a Baron? I'm not sure, but Baron has already fallen right now, and they're going to be looking to change this one up onto the towers. They have picked up a tower in exchange, but it's now going to come down to how well do Infused take the Baron and make it work for them.
Yeah, that was a very interesting play from TCM. I guess they just thought we're too far away, don't want to commit ourselves, and then just have Infused just open up on us, and then have all of us drop. They pick up the Baron anyway, and then they push into the turret. It was a difficult situation for them. They just made the split-second call to go into that bot turret, pick that one up, maybe hoping they could get further before they took down that Baron, but they did take it down incredibly quickly, even with 3 of those players. So right now they're going to have to back off, and as you said, we're now looking towards Infused to see what they can do and how far they can push. But they have a very strong team fight. They may even just look for the dive right now with 2 Zhonya's Hourglass.
Whether that trade was worth it for Infused is going to depend on how they use Baron right now. For these next 2 to 3 minutes, I want to see how Infused are going to utilize this buff. Because in getting Baron, they lost the second tower at bot, they lost a blue buff, and they lost Drake. So they've actually lost quite a few objectives there. How well can they utilize this advantage though? That is going to be the tale, that's going to be the sign that shows me whether that trade was worth it in the end. I have to say though, TCM, they made a very quick judgment call, and they were focused on it. A lot of times you'll see teams kind of split up and end up doing nothing. You have to give props to TCM, they seem focused on the job at hand. They just went, okay, screw this, we can't get Baron, we'll take a tower and a Drake.
Yeah, when someone makes a call on the team, you just follow it. Sometimes there's a bit of indecision, like maybe we shouldn't, maybe we should move towards Drake. Team splits up, and as you said, nothing gets done. But mark of a good team, they actually took that turret in that bot lane. So now they are in that top area. See if they can maybe get an engagement to happen. Obviously, Infused don't want to just jump straight under the turret with all that CC and damage, making sure they don't get locked up with the Tidal Wave, the Frozen Tomb, and the rest of it. But even so, they want something to happen. As you said, they need to siege down this turret, but look at the wave clear coming in from TCM, making it very difficult for them to push. But Cesar over the wall, the ultimate comes in, the ultimate, the Absolute Zero comes out as well, the Frozen Tube goes onto himself, the Zonya's all over the board, triple Zonya's comes down, Cesar gets popped down, along with Naru, double kill comes out, and Caliber just moving into that turret is still in very good shape, and the damage he can output is absolutely massive. 2 for 0 trade with only Zac being popped down into his passive.
Yeah, awesome trade there. Really nice communicative play as well coming out from Infused. Knowing that Zac was coming in, landing a nice crescendo and true shot barrage, just bursting everyone down. A lot of ultimates have already been used as well from TCM, so it's a case that this inhib is going to go down. There is no doubt about this whatsoever. It's just a case if they feel confident enough to go for a second one, or if they're going to back on off. Nunu back up in 10 seconds, Belgian Beast up in 20. So I don't think they've got enough time. No, they don't, with this minion wave in mid to push down and take the second inhib. So they have taken inhib. In that terms, I said in the next few minutes we'd find out the answer was definitely worth the Baron trade there. Because with that Baron trade, they've picked themselves up a tower and also an inhib.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, Messers took the words out of my mouth. That definitely did pay off for them. And right now, with the inhibitor down, the rest of the minion waves will be getting strong, gives them a lot of strength in pushing down the rest of these waves. All they really need to do is just sit in the lane, have someone on TCM is gonna have to mop up those minions at top lane, and then towers start dropping. Meanwhile, bot lane, Caliber finds himself caught by JWoww. Deathmark will do enough damage, doesn't quite, not quite enough, but the ace in the hole comes down, will be blocked by Cesar. Shrinking Ray ultimate comes in. But the rest of the TCM are moving around that bot lane, see if they can maybe get a pick off, but they are just going to clear out that minion wave.
Interestingly enough, we were talking before about the Negatron cloak that Caitlyn has. We were like, will she go for Quicksilver Sash? Will she go for maybe a Phantom Dancer? Nope, both were wrong. Went for Infinity Edge. So really sacrificing on the defensive items to go ahead for more damage does make a lot of sense. Infinity Edge in Caitlyn is an awesome item. But also, that Deathmark was cleansed out of courtesy of the Quicksilver Sash from Ezreal. So he has finished off the QSS and are already paying out very well for him. So again, JWoww now feels a tiny bit gimped. Like, what can he do, Pulse? If he focuses on to 3 of the 5 players, he's not going to get any success. And the other 2 players are the support and the Zac. So it's not really worth it in that case.
Yeah, very little he can do. Maybe he can bait out the QSS. It's got a 90-second cooldown. See if he can get the Belgian Beast ultimate. But that's a huge ultimate just to spend on someone just to get rid of their QSS. It's very difficult for Zac in this situation. That's basically one character out of the equation. You're looking toward maybe Lissandra. She gets locked down by all those AoE ultimates. And just with those item pickups, it's making it very difficult for TCM to make some calls on who they should focus. Because they can't focus someone because they'll just Zonyas, they'll Quicksilver Sash, or you're just focusing the tank, in which case the AP carries are just smashing in your face. It's a very difficult situation for them, especially with Infused being so far ahead.
Yeah, and it's difficult as well for JWoww because every time they've been in a fight, it's always been defensive from TCM. Other than Belgian Beast engaging around Drake at what seems like a lifetime ago now, 20 or 15 minutes ago, whenever it was, around the Drake pit. Other than that, they've been on the back foot. It's always been Infused making the plays, making things happen, tower diving with the Zac and Crescendo ultimate combinations. Now, speaking of Zac, he is charging up his Elastic Slingshot, cancels it right at the end. But they're now just playing Siege. They're going to try and starve out the team of TCM. They're going to try and make sure that, you know, these top lane minions with the super minions start to push top, and then maybe they're going to start to pressure bot lane. And at that point, TCM are going to have to send somebody to deal with it. Right now, they're sending JWoww, but unfortunately, from Infused perspective, they're not actually on the tower yet to really make use of this little mishap coming out from TCM.
Yeah, this will however mean that Overpower is sieging the mid turret, chunking it down to about a third HP so far. Lissandra actually forced to move away from it into bot lane. Middle turret goes down. That's another inhibitor, and that's starting to crack the turtle shell. And really, if we are looking for TCM to do anything, we need them to turtle out, get to the sort of later on into the game so they can farm them, get Matraco into that point where he's ripping through those tanks and everyone around him. But at the moment, they're just being pushed in, inhibitor down to 50% HP, and it's just not a Nexus, it's Infused just pushing the envelope.
And there's very little TCM can do about this. Other than Belgian Beast, they don't have a great deal of engage unless maybe an Aqua Prison lands on the AD carry. But as we mentioned previously, the Arcane Shift from Ezreal is going to get them out of jail every single time if it's off cooldown. So again, they've kind of tiptoed around the area, and as a result, 2 inhibs are down with just the 1 remaining, but the inhib tower on less than 50% HP. So TCM are really between a rock and a hard place right now. On top of that, the woes continue as a free Drake goes to Infused. So Pauls, from this position that we're currently in, how can TCM bring this back in your opinion? Or is it just too little too late?
They're just being slowly ground down here, Metas, and it's just maybe a case of them needing to go for a team fight. But if you look at them straight up and look about both teams, in a straight up team fight, you just see Infused just straight up winning. Baron has spawned, maybe this is the time for TCM maybe to get something done, their time to strike, but no vision over it means they won't be able to know when they actually go for it themselves. So what can they do here, Metas? It just looks difficult, because if they go for that if they keep going into that seeding situation, we have Infused just gonna carry on battering them down. They will eventually take that bottom inhib. If they choose to go for the Baron, TCM don't have any vision over it.
It's a really precarious position to be in, because Nunu, a character that honestly in this game has had very little impact, Paul. So I think it's fair to say that, yes, he stole a couple of buffs, but from there on in has been fairly absent in this game. Wants to get that absolute zero off the charge off. As I'm speaking, Baron has been started off here, and TCM are not going to have a hope of stealing this one, or even going to bother to try, because if they go there, they're going to end up dying, then they'll lose the game. But it's very difficult, because you look at the composition out from Infused, they could feasibly keep you CC'd and kill you from 100% to 0. They have so many interrupts, they've got so much CC, Crescendo, the Let's Bounce, then the Slicing Maelstrom, then the Charm from Ari. You catch all of them on a carry, they'll die before they even auto-attack a single time. It's very difficult from the composition of TCM to see how they're going to string together a few abilities and pick anybody up, never mind the ace. This is going to be the inhib respawning and instantly going down again. I honestly feel TCM's days are numbered. Here comes J1 from the side though, he has used his ultimate, will be falling down from Ari. Here comes the ace in the hole as well. Overpower still alive and kicking to pick up the second kill. Tidal Wave from the side, Frozen Tomb courtesy of Belgian Beast. He's putting himself in a precarious position. He goes down for the double kill, now focusing on the Caitlyn, who will fall instantly, and that's going to be the ace and all she wrote, Pulse, for game number 1.
Yeah, clean ace, 5 for 0, ace comes down and that Nexus will be falling. And that's a 1-0, so right now that will be Infused leading the best of 5, and we'll see how this turns out. That game did seem rather one-sided from a certain point in the game, Metas, because it was just like, after they started picking objectives, it never seemed like TCM were quite in the position to bring themselves back. There was no sort of huge team fights that swung it either way. It was just Infused picking up small victories and just grinding them down.
That really reminded me of Heimerdinger's Colossi, because for a lot of that game, Pulse, it was fairly neck and neck. Even when the score was 6-0 in favour of Infused, the goal difference was only about 1.5k. But as Heimerdinger's Colossi used to do before they obviously disbanded and went their separate ways, they kind of just got small advantages and they just kept going forward and forward and forward. Went for the jugular throughout. They never took their foot off the accelerator. And it was difficult for TCM, especially with the composition that they had, to really force anything, to really force an engage out of nowhere. Whereas if you look at Infused composition, it was all about the heavy engage. They had characters to do it left, right, and center. So I think it was a composition mix match. You could see what they're going for with the Nunu, but honestly, the Nunu pick just didn't work for them.